us for 6 weeks from Austria, where she lives right outside of Vienna. That is one of the challenges we had in writing this book, having this communication going back and forth with my editor. So let's first find out. I wanted to know what brought you here. Third question. Oh, first one. Do you read or write? Well, that's what I was going to go to. So I'm very interested in all of you. Obviously, my family is here to support me. I love my family. Thank you, family. But I would like to know from the rest of you what, first of all, are you, the first question here is, do you read or write fiction, and is that why you wanted to come? So just, you can offer anything you want on that. I was chatting with you earlier, but I didn't get your name.
I'm Brenda.
Brenda.
Yeah, I read fiction. Like I said, I was a children's librarian, and actually here at this branch in the 1990s, something like that.
So cool.
So, yeah, I was interested because I like to read a lot of local things that are set in the locality, and kind of like, because I was in children's, like kind of then young adult or bridging into adult fiction, so that's why I just kind of appealed to me.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's wonderful too. How cool to be here back at the library where you were in the 90s. Thank you, Brenda. Anything special bring you here?
I do not write fiction. I write poetry, but I read a lot, and I was at middle school in history
Oh, wonderful.
for 7 years. So I'm interested in
Cool.
that fiction, that come-of-age stories sound
Yeah.
interesting.
Absolutely.
I'm also on the board of the Library Foundation, so I try to support library
I
events.
love that support. Thank you for that. Was the school local that you
It's in LA.
In LA, okay. Well, welcome and thank you for coming. Any writers or readers in the back row there?
I love reading. My name's Tim. Read in multiple genres.
Awesome.
I don't know anything about the book, to be honest with you, but I was intrigued by the last name.
Oh.
I knew a Reverend Touryan in Pasadena.
Oh, my gosh. That's our grandfather.
I thought as much, and frankly, that's what drew me here, just out of curiosity.
Well, now you know why I picked that pen name, right? It brings the crowds. Yeah, well, that's really exciting to know. Yeah, that's my grandfather, and actually, this is his daughter, my aunt, sitting right there. So, yeah, we'll have to have a conversation. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that particular name afterwards. So, super happy you're here. And anything in particular that brought you? Just the donuts at the end? Oh, okay, wonderful. Excellent. Oh, we're happy you're here. We're happy you're home. Thank you. And I know you said you didn't read the book yet, Tim, and I don't know, did you say you have or have
I have not.
Okay,
I
and
have
that's,
not heard of it.
oh, okay, that's okay.
I saw this event in the library's
Oh,
newsletter.
uh-huh.
I said, oh, that sounds interesting. So,
Wonderful. You don't need to have read the book. We're going to talk about, we'll talk about it, and if you're interested, we have copies to sell. So, and I know that Brenda did get the book. I don't think she started it yet, but she's got, she started it. Oh, okay, great, wonderful. Well, and for the rest of you, all these people, wonderful people over here are mostly family, and very important to the success of this book, actually. And then my dear neighbors are here as well. And I know we have a writer right here with Leslie's a writer. And so I'm super happy to have both of them here. So a little bit about, wait. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. Anybody have a favorite genre? That's one thing I wanted to talk about. We're going to talk about the genre of this book. Any favorite genres?
Literary fiction.
Oh, my heart too. Good for you. Anybody else?
historical fiction.
Historical, okay. And other, I know Steve, thriller and spy and political and whatever. I asked about reading the novel that brought you here, and oh, my last question, where were you in 1971? Where were you in 1971?
I was teaching a 3rd grade bilingual program in South Central Los Angeles.
Wow, that's intense. Good for you. Wow. Napa Valley? Oh, San Fernando. Oh, you said cowgirl. Okay, and Jim, where were you then?
I was graduating from Pasadena High School.
That's so great. Wow. We were in Pasadena up until we moved to San Luis Obispo in 1970. So in 70s when I landed here in junior high, which I will talk about later. Anybody here who was not here, as in alive in 1971? Seth, the library organizer was not here. nostalgic feel?
Way too many.
Wait, yeah. That's a good answer. Anybody else? I think, I know you were in high school with me at that time. Did you have any?
A favorite?
Well, one that kind of brings it all back.
Actually, for me, because I was teaching third grade in South Central, the class was almost entirely black students, and the stable singers were really hot. So respect yourself.
Oh,
There you go.
that's really, yeah, I would think so.
Crystal Blues per Free by Tommy James and the Shonville always makes me think of Adelaide.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes, yes.
In the
Brent?
70s, it would have been like Blondie's Party Life.
That's great. That's so great. We have, can I say it now? Sure. We're gonna have you guess. We have a song.
This is a music one.
Oh, it's a music one set for the sound.
Okay.
Yeah. While she's putting that out, we want you to guess. I'm sure you will. But the book opens with a song and it closes with a song. And if you know a little bit about copyright, it's really strict when it comes to using lyrics. I mean, you can't even use like just a few words if somebody can recognize that song. So we did it in a way, we kind of alluded to it without actually saying what the lyrics were, but these were the songs that opened it and then opened the book and closed it.
It's actually is the song on your laptop?
Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna play it.
Do you have okay,
It might work. Should we try it?
do you have sure, you can try it. Sure.
Let's just see if it works.
Or you could just, take the HDMI out for a sec. Uh-huh.
哦
Oh,
I know that one. I saw them live in concert in 1966.
She saw them live in concert in 1966. That's awesome. In Kansas. See? The hot fun in the summertime line is that book ends with the hot fun. And that's because she has to go to school. Summer's over. No hot fun in the summertime anymore. There's the book. Let's see if it works. Okay, so where was I in 1971? I was at Laguna Junior High, and it was the first year it had opened, and I had just moved up from Pasadena, Altadena actually. And so my dad had gotten a job at Cal Poly as a philosophy professor, and my mom had gotten a job as an RN to open up the ICU-CCU unit at Sierra Vista. They didn't have one at the time, and so she had been working as a nurse in Pasadena. She came and became the head nurse that opened up Sierra Vista's CCU. So that brought us up here, and I was 13 and going into 9th grade and didn't know anybody, and here were all the people. San Luis was small, smaller than it is now. Everybody had gone to either San Luis Junior High or to Mission. So I come from the outside, and I really felt somewhat of an other in 9th grade when you're supposed to be. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th at the time. Middle school now is like 7th and 8th, 12-ish, or high school. So here I come in, and I'm a Southern Cal girl, and everybody's kind of in their place, and you'll see that somewhat in the book as well. So that's where I was, and that was the Laguna Lancer 1971 yearbook, and then high school. So that was I graduated from San Luis High in 74. Leslie was there in the high school with me. My sister was in the high school with me. So we were, it looked quite, I mean, I don't know what year this is exactly, but it certainly looks different now. And then I went to Cal Poly. That was the old library. Does anybody remember the old library at Cal Poly? That's the old library there. Cal Poly is where I met my husband, sitting right there, the corner, who was getting his master's. I had graduated with my bachelor's in English, and I went right into the master's program in English, and he was from Napa, you were saying that, and he had come down to get his master's in city and regional planning. And we met probably around the library. His building was on this side, the English department was up this way, and we would cross paths at the school. So that's where we were. We got married in 81. That's at Shell Beach. Then we moved to Sacramento, which he didn't tell me when he proposed to me that we would be leaving San Luis Obispo. You know, that could have changed the answer, but there we went. Off to Sacramento, where he worked for Caltrans, that headquarters up there. And I finished my master's at Sac State. Then, a few years later, after teaching English at the community colleges, I went back to UC Davis Law School. Graduated from there in 95. And then worked in Sacramento for 30 years, had 2 children. This is the younger one, I have an older one. We came back 12 years ago after my husband retired, which was wonderful because my mother's still here and she's 90 years old, so we were able to move back just within walking distance of where Mama is. I'm very thankful that she stayed waiting for me for 30 years to come back. There's Mama. She was at Coalesce bookstore. This was a couple weeks ago. We had a book signing at Coalesce in Waterway. And that's my older daughter, who's a classical pianist. She lives in the UK. This is this daughter right here, who danced with the Academy of the Civic Ballet. One of her performances there. Yes, and now she gets to talk about herself. Hello.
Hello. Yes, so that's me. I went to Cuesta, and then I went to Cal Poly, and I got my bachelor's in child development with a minor in psychology, but I also love my English classes so much that I had to get a second minor in English. I then, in 2017, got my certificate in editing from UC Berkeley Extension, and then I got a graphic design certificate from UC San Diego Extension. I like school. So lots of random certificates, but they have come in very handy. You said you were going to ask me about what I do and the books I read. What I do, I'm an editor. Multi-level editor. I live in Austria with my husband over there. So I've edited fiction, websites, master's thesis work, and lots of different kinds of things. And I like to read classics. So I love Jane Austen. I love Sherlock Holmes. I know he didn't write. I know he's not the author. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie. I also love J.K. Rowling, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, all kinds of stuff. But my favorite is, of course, Turning Toward Eden.
And one thing that she made sure that I did was get an audiobook, because this generation likes the audiobooks. She said, you've got to do that, Mom. The younger people are going to want the audiobook. So that will be coming out soon, we hope. And she did have the background to be an editor, and I'm grateful that we could work together on this project. So did you want to ask me about my pen name, or should I just tell you? I will just tell you about my pen name. So to go back to my name, so there are a couple of reasons that I wanted to use a pen name. One is that there is a best-selling New York Times author with my exact name, with my exact spelling, very well known. She does mostly nonfiction, but I get so much of her email. And I even got an email asking if the Pulitzer Committee could have permission to republish my Harper's article that I didn't know I wrote. So I thought, this is no good, I can't have this. And so I decided, well, you know what, I can use this name that I love, which comes from my name anyway, because my middle name is Kathleen, so the Kate is for Kathleen, my middle name. And then the Touryan, that's my mom, and that's wonderful you recognize that name. It's my maiden name. And there aren't very many. I mean, when he said I knew somebody named that, the chances that it would be anybody else other than us, I would have been like, I would have gone out and played the lottery today if there had been another Touryan somewhere, because we're the only ones that we know. So I knew I wouldn't be getting anybody else's email if I used this particular name. So that's one reason I did that. And if you know about the Armenian names, you can recognize the last name from the Y-A-N and the I-A-N. So I knew it would carry the ethnicity part from my mom's line. So that's why I did that. Okay, about the novel. So what we've done with the novel is this just a little soundbite. It's a retro seaside adventure woven with friendship and faith. But it was very hard to place. That's what What's the Scoop means. It means where does it even place? What kind of novel? It was difficult for publishers to know exactly how to pitch it. So, yeah, she's just going to read the blurb on the back since some of you haven't read it. It's right here. Okay.
So, chasing the truth, huh? Sure you're not running from it? Hollis might be her only friend, a lanky boy Mama calls her beau, but Eden Lewis has no time for his hogwash. She's got a mystery to crack. For most 14-year-olds, California summers in the early 1970s mean sun and surf, despite the Cold War chill. Not for Eden. Her AWOL father has sent her life into a tailspin, landing her in a shabby beach town, stuck caring for her severely disabled brother. Caught in her parents' own Cold War, Eden ditches decks at every chance, pier fishing with Hollis, playing poker with the grizzled card sharks, and caterwauling in the church choir, laying plain to the Almighty that singing terms ain't the same as speaking terms, what with the hand he's dealt her. Then Raven arrives, mid-9th grade, an elusive Soviet girl rumored to rain black-winged curses over the fearful town. When a rash of petty crimes escalates to bloodshed on the beach, suspicion falls on the commie, and then Eden. Desperate to prove herself innocent and Raven guilty, she embarks on a reckless game of chase. But for the truth to set her free, she must risk Dex's life. Will she go all in, no matter the cost? An evocative story laced with mystery, Turning Toward Eden, we use nostalgia with grit, sorrow with humor, and despair with faith, offering hope to anyone who has sought to belong in a world that rarely plays fair.
Okay, so thank you for that. So you probably can see from that that we have several elements that go into the book. So it's a genre that I think I loosely call genre fusion, which is bringing together, oh, this is what I should tell you too. I didn't bill it this way. Amazon did this. When it went up on Amazon, I was thinking I was going to call it just a sort of a general adult coming of age. The next thing I knew, I was told that it was the #1 hot new release in YA historical mystery. And I had not put it up under that at all. But I went with it because who's not going to go with #1, right? And I was like, okay, I'll take it. So the reason it's considered historical is that any novel that is older than 50 years from now is considered historical. That means that I'm now historical as source of it. So that's how they decide that. So that's why it's historical. Then it's a mystery, and there are actually 2 mysteries going on. The first mystery is trying to figure out who's behind the series of escalating crimes. But the other mystery is who is this elusive commie newcomer to the town. It's coming of age, defined in this sense as a pivotal period in an adolescent's life where they are on the threshold of discovery of adulthood and what their inner world and their outer world are trying to resolve into. And then it's considered literary in a light. I like to think of it as light literary, which I'll go into a little bit more. I don't like using the term literary too much because so many people, especially people who read a lot of commercial fiction, feel daunted by that term. They think, oh no, this is going to be pretentious. It's going to be way over my head. It's going to just basically make me feel stupid. So why would I want to read a book like that? But there are some literary elements, I think, in this. And I hope that in this way that I mean literary, it just means accessible, but with a little bit more depth to it and a little bit more of a lyrical style. Okay? So it's kind of genre fiction because historical mystery, coming of age, those are all considered commercial fiction or genre fiction. Then there's the literary fiction, which a lot of people, unless you're really, like I love that Brenda loves literary fiction, that's a much smaller audience. Genre fiction is an escape. People read it because they want an escape, they want the suspense, they want entertainment, they want everything to wrap up pretty nicely at the end, which is wonderful. We all want that at some time. Literary fiction is more reflective, it has depth, there's some artistry to it, it often takes on larger issues, and then it's often open-ended. You don't really know what happens, there's some loose threads with that. So a blend of that is what we would call maybe upmarket, book club, or literary leaning commercial fiction. Those are kind of names we put on that when we have both the accessible genres or commercial fiction with a literary touch to it. Again, genre fiction is plot-driven, but where literary fiction is more character-driven. And when you read the story, they're going to see it's very character-driven. Genre fiction has a very familiar structure and familiar tropes that people are looking for, like they expect certain things to happen, and if they don't happen, they get really upset. Literary fiction doesn't have any particular tropes. There's always a clear resolution, it's very accessible, it has mass appeal, and it makes money, and that's why publishing houses want a lot of commercial fiction. That's how you make money. Literary fiction, character-driven, thematic depth, complex style, open or vague endings, and it's not necessarily linear in a familiar structure. It can be very recursive, which you'll see in this book. It's kind of recursive. There's layers of time happening throughout the book. So it's kind of a blend, I think. So I call it genre fusion. And then it's a crossover. That was the other thing. I didn't call it YA on Amazon, but Amazon would call it YA. So I see it now as a crossover. And the interesting thing about YA fiction is that the largest readers of YA are women. 55% of the market for YA is women 18 to 35. Teen girls, of the teens that are left, it's girls who want to read the YA. So it's so hard to pitch or sell or shelve a book that can kind of go both ways. It's not in a neat category. So when I wrote it, and when I talk about that a little, I'll tell you, when I wrote it first, I imagined it as YA. But as I got into it, I realized it's not really meant strictly for YA. It really has some adult appeal. So it's a crossover. We call wanted it to be as realistic as possible, and when we're teens or adolescents, we're working out what do we actually believe about a faith, especially if we've grown up with one or maybe we haven't. So she's also on a journey, and you saw from the blurb that she's not on speaking terms with God, because she doesn't like how God has made her life the script that he's written for her life. So she's trying to wrestle with how, as adults, we often look at the world and we think, how can there be a God? How can God allow so much evil in the world? But when we're adolescents, the question is, how can if there's a God, if there's a good God, how can he allow so much misery in my life? And that's where she's at this point. And that's what the novel tries to look at. Okay, so fun facts. The first one, let's see. The first one is that the story is based in a fictional Avila Beach, where the book's over there. I'll show you the coastline of this book. You'll have another one. So that's what the cover is. That's supposed to approximate Avila Beach. There's the pier right there. San Luis Obispo is called San Sebastian, and that is a shout out to my son-in-law from Australia, who is Sebastian. And then we have Cal Poly. I call it San Sebastian State University, of course. The sunset. We have the sunset drive-in in the book, but we call it the moonrise. I know we were really original there. I liked it. So you'll see the sunset drive-in. We call the dinosaur caves the pirate caves, and they feature prominently in the book. The third pier, which is the Hartford Pier, and in the book, it's a fictionalized Avila Beach with that I took liberties on the landscape. But I call it Hartford Beach in the book because of the Hartford Pier, which is the third pier. In the book, the Hartford Pier is called the Alvarado Pier. In the book, some of the liberties I took with the fictionalized Avila is that where the Bob Jones Creek is and the golf course and all that, I call that Gulch Run. It's a shanty town. And then where the hills are and the Avila estates and all that, I call all of that Vintage Heights. So I've added some elements into it with some different populations and some ranches and some of the Mexican influence at the time. You'll see that occurs there as well. What else did I give those all? Okay. Yeah, I said the Vintage Heights already. Oh yeah, this is this. Oh, did you have what? Oh, you wanted me to do the project? Yeah. Just push the button on top. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can write it. This is the 71 Avila. Remember the tanks? This is what it looked like before the cleanup, where they went and they took out all the sand, and now it looks, Avila is a different Avila. If you lived here and you've seen it, such a different Avila than when I was growing up. So this is the old Avila. There's all the tanks over here, obviously. This is where kind of the shanty town of Gulch Run would be, and then up above would be the Vintage Heights, and there's the pier, of course, right there. Here's an old picture as well. Featuring in the novel prominently is probably around this corner is Kathy's. A lot of activity happens in the diner, Cap's Diner. A lot of after-hours poker playing kind of activity happens there. And I'm sure you're in here, everybody but Seth, and maybe we were all hanging out here, weren't we? I actually lived in Avila with my aunt, this one right here, in the 70s. Even though I was in San Luis, we lived in San Luis Obispo, but for a year while I was at Cal Poly, I did live with my aunt, and that was in the 70s as well. And that was wonderful. Oh my gosh, I loved it. It was a really healing place at the time, and I needed it in the adolescent time of my life. That's the old slide. There's swings here. We just didn't get a picture. The swings feature prominently in the book as well. There's here, yeah. In the book, I have a big storm come up, and this one's a little earlier. I think this one says 64 or 60. Where is it? Oh, 60. Okay. Yeah. This is February 9th, 1960. So I have a storm effect appear in the book and damage the rail. Looks like that's what it looked like at the time that actually happened. These are the dinosaur caves that I call them the pirate caves. There's lots of stuff that happens in here that's very exciting. There's the CVS. That was a Rexall at the time. I do have a Rexall in the book. The drive-in, the moonrise. Okay.
The oldest picture I could find of the drive-in is 1980.
Wow, so there's no early running. But it was there back, in the 70s, we had the drive-in, so yeah. This little house was sort of the inspiration for Eden's house. So this is Front Street right here, and I make the house a little house like this, and I put kind of a motel, and then this motel kind of over here. So that sort of was the inspiration for the rental, the shabby rental that she lives in. Okay, a little bit about the writing and publishing process. It's been 25 years in the making. I started it when she was about 4. I wanted to write a YA novel because my older daughter was 16. So I was reading YA and I was thinking YA, and I thought, oh, I'd love to write a YA. But then life happened, and there was that daughter, there was this daughter, I had a 40-year career, I hate to remember that. I had a 40-year career teaching for the community colleges, and I taught at Cal Poly, a couple classes at Poly. I taught for UC Davis, I taught for Berkeley. I was just teaching a lot of classes, and then I was editing a lot too. So between work, kids, life, raising, I would work on it, put it down, pick it up, put it down. So finally, when we retired and we came back to St. Louis and the kids were off and gone and doing their thing, I thought about coming back to it, and I looked at it and I thought, what in the world was I even trying to do? It had been, I had, the start, stop, and Ambria said, you really should try to finish it, and I'll help you out with it. And really, her basic help was, Mom, it's pretty good, but where's your plot? What is this even about? So she really helped me as a developmental editor, which is one kind of editor, to go through it and say, okay, let's try to remember, where were you thinking, where were you going with this, and then getting back on board. So picking up something 25 years later is not something I would recommend for most people. The inspiration, lots of inspiration. I've mentioned some of it already, but there was a gal in my high school that really intrigued me. She was just not a conformist in any way. She would go around with flowers all through her hair, and she's got a little cat there. This is her senior portrait. And she was kind of shunned by people because she was just different. And it bothered me, but not enough to befriend her. And I didn't like that about myself. I was like, why? Why would I? Because you're a teen and it's really important that everybody thinks you're cool. And if I befriend her, maybe I'm not cool because maybe I'm weird like she is, or whatever. And what's really neat about that is I gave her the book recently and I asked her if I could share the picture. She's like, yeah, she thought it would be great to have the picture. And I said, yeah, you're kind of the inspiration for Raven. So I have a character named Raven in the book, and that's the senior picture.
Well, she also went by a different name in school.
Yeah, she also went by, that was the other thing. Why didn't anybody ever call her by her name? And that bothered me. It was a nickname and I didn't think it was a very nice nickname. So it bothered me. It was a way to not be so cowardly anymore, because back in high school it's kind of like I should probably be nice and I should probably say hi and I should probably get to know her, instead of, oh, she's coming, I need to go somewhere else and be with my friends so she doesn't become my friend or something weird, So that was one. She's a lovely person and we're friends now. In fact, she was very close to me. And then this is my brother. This is my half-brother. He was born when I was 33 to my father in his second marriage. And my father raised him and took care of him 24/7 until he was too big and they couldn't carry him and he couldn't do anything for him. He's exactly like Dex in the novel. He's got the same diagnosis. He has the same trajectory. Well, he didn't start out in he started out with my father, but when he got older, he was put in a home, and that's us visiting him in his home. And he's just the sweetest. We just went to him. He's just the sweetest boy. So he was part of the inspiration for Dex. And then there's a whole thing about ballet, and that inspiration was my ballerina over here, and that's my ballerina doing what she does right there. So she was another one. Some story elements. What did we have? Oh yeah, I told you about the rumors. There's a lot of rumors. One of the many themes is what's truth, what's rumor. What have I been so sure I was right about that I turned out to be so wrong about? The Cold War tensions. If you were living here in the 70s and 60s, you probably knew that off of Los Osos Valley Road was an underground cable because of the Cold War, the tensions with the Soviet Union. So in case we needed cross-continental communications, we have this hidden underground. You can see if that's a picture of it from Los Osos Valley Road. And I remember we would go by that, and I'd always be so freaked out because it was like, oh no, that's what's going to happen. And it's like, bomb-proof, and it's just in case we were going to be nuked, we would communicate with the other side of the country and over to Hawaii, and it had a lot of different functions. I've got a whole piece about that. But that was part of what inspired the kind of, the book itself was set with the Cold War tensions on the outskirts. It's not really centered to the story. It's not historical in that way. I don't go into a lot of history, but it makes people paranoid and it makes people distrust the other because we're in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. These people are Slavic and we can tell they're probably, they're probably traitors or something. So that's where that came from. Oh my gosh. Okay. So these in the 70s were called thongs. And I wrote that in my book. And I said, oh, she put on her thongs, and then she kicked off her thongs.
Oh.
And my daughter, the young generation,
Awful.
she said, oh, Mom,
You can have her kick off her thongs.
She said, you can't say she kicked off her thongs. And so we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and we asked my husband, because he was here with us, and finally she prevailed, and she said, flip-flops. Nobody's going to allow that word in there. You have to say flip-flops. So I changed it. Then I gave it to my proofreader, and my proofreader sent it back to me in big letters. She said, these were not called flip-flops in the 70s. These are thongs. Right, Brenda? So what did I have to do? I put thongs in, and look at her face. That was like the
Now it has crossover appeal for smut.
But I was trying to be authentic all the time, right? Oh my gosh, we went around and we tried Zorries, beachcombers, I don't know, we could, floppy plastic, we tried everything.
Go-aheads. They were called go-aheads for a while.
Oh, I never heard that before. Go ahead. That would have been maybe okay. I'm not sure that. So that was a funny moment. And then we have in the book, Eden has her crushes. These were the crushes that we.
You can tell us who they
Oh
are.
yeah, you can guess as these come up. Why don't you guess? Little Joe, of course.
Oh, we all love Little Joe.
James Dean, yeah.
Oh, was that, what's his name? Adam or something?
Clint Eastwood. Yeah, Clint Eastwood. So they make an appearance in the book. We have over 20 types of birds that are local to our beach here. So let's see if you can guess.
And some of them are like, there's a rubber duck. I include, not in the slideshow, but and we have discussion questions, and in one of the questions I say, can you find all the birds in the book? And I include stuff like rubber ducks.
Oh my goodness.
Just to give you a hint.
See? Exactly. Yeah, I know. That's amazing. I love that.
But these are all real words.
So guess what they are? You know from this, okay? Beautiful, yeah. An egret. Yes, very good. Yeah. Sandpiper. Pelican. Yes, exactly. And then the 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉. And the 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 is a mythological bird, and it's the bird on the cover. So when you read the story, you find out what the 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 is. Yeah. And then, okay. Oh, and there's this one. I won't tell you. It fits in the same category. Does anybody know what 𝒔𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 is? 𝒔𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 is. Ever heard of it? Can I tell them?
Mexican lore. It's like from Mexican mythology.
Put it in.
That'll give you a hint. But you have to read the book to really find out.
Yeah, it's in Mexican superstition that there is a creature that turns into an owl, sinister. It's a very sinister owl. And yeah, you read the book and you'll find out how that makes a difference. Okay, some teasers in the book. There's a Ferris wheel that makes an appearance,
And a surfer in there.
and a surfer. The dancer on the shore, and motorcycle. Yes. Okay, we have a couple excerpts. You want to read this one?
Okay. Not much for hearing folks talk. Hollis wasn't much for talking about folks either. So I kept my musings to myself, swatting at a cloud of flies. And what I was musing was that maybe she was a witch, just like they said. Better a witch than the sister of a half-wit, even if it wasn't charitable to rumor. And rumor was that we had Soviet spies in our midst.
Okay. I suppose the KGB story did stretch credulity, but rumors are spun from threads of truths. And better fantastical stories for shadowy newcomers than phony, bless your heart commiserations for a defective brother. Better a raven than an albatross.
Duty was about the ugliest four-letter word I'd ever heard, a mess of worry I didn't have time for, and she must have seen it on my face because she'd looked hard at me and said, "Duty is an act of love, Eden May."
Okay, and then
This will give us a little trouble because it's an audio clip. If you want to follow along in the book, it's on page 72 and 73, but I have to close the
oh yeah,
PowerPoint.
you close it.
Sorry.
So I'll talk about it while you're doing that. So the audiobook, as I was mentioning, is coming out in a couple of weeks. The narrator that we found, I'm not a big audiobook, so I'm not really sure how audiobooks are supposed to go. She listens to a lot of them, but our particular narrator tried to voice the different characters, not just read it straight. So we picked an excerpt that has 3 different characters. So it has Eden, who is the main character. It has her narrator voice. It's in the first person point of view. And then it has her friend Hollis. He's a little bit older, kind of like a big brother figure to her. And then it has Rosa, who's Mexican and helps care for her brother Dex. So it gives you maybe a feel for 3 different voices, which is why we picked this short clip.
It's just under 3 minutes long. So here we go.
The outskirts settled by a steady trickle of down-and-out libraries. But rumor erupted, whisper by spine tingling whisper, a mansion of Gothic proportions, a maze of twisted passages, dark rooms, and endless doors, with an attic sinister as a witch's cauldron. Hollis wrote it off as bunk, said the largest house there belonged to the Honorable Mac MacDougall, the local drunk and self-appointed mayor of Gulch Run. Now, in exquisite shambles, the once stately home had been built by Mayor Mac's grandfather, a landowner who planted his fortune vine by vine just to produce a grandson who drank it away bottle by bottle. Even then, the house held no more than 7 rooms if you counted the sunroom out back. Mayor Mac and his pal lived there still. Why would anybody want to live in Gulch Run? I asked Hollis once. In tin can houses, trash dump on one side, smelly old creek on the other? It's not so bad. Hollis threaded a squid tentacle on a hook. It's got character, and, he added with a grin, a post office. And it was home to Rosa, her husband, and their 9 children, 2 occupying the house in a Catholic state of grace, never having reached their first birthdays, hiding lizards under the bedspread and twirling the curtains of the dog days of summer, she insisted. Their toots I put under pillows, same as all child's. Always the peso from el ratón de los dientes, if you will at the crux. What tooths? The tooths from bebés. But spirits have no teeth. Then what I find when I sweeping, eh? Senor Mendoza worked the orchards in season and played peyote off season, the back alley dice game. Antonio a better gambler than husband. 2 stray cats in the barnyard, all claws and hisses, Rosa told me. And then to the din had come the cries of cariños, 1, 2, 3, all in crescendo so quick she had no time for tears. This she told me that first week she came to watch Dex. How'd you have so many kids with all that scratching and spitting? Eh? You think if fighting you no can loving? Sometimes loving better.
Okay. And then, these are reviews. We don't have a lot of time for that, but you can find these reviews and more on my website, which we're going to be doing a quick, just to show you my website, because I have, even though this book I just finished this year after 25 years, I have been writing for all of my life. So I have other pieces on here that are free for anybody to read. I have flash fiction, creative nonfiction, essays. I also have the prequel. Let me tell you a little bit about the prequel. It's free to this book. So if you go on the website, which I'll show you where, I wrote a short story. It's a short story. It takes place in 1910 Avila. So again, it's historically based. It's called The Gulch Run Gangster.
So this is the website, and if you scroll, there will be a pop-up, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom here, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and then you'll get the short story for free.
Yeah, and my newsletter, just so you know, it's supposed to be quarterly. I'm lucky if I do it 3 times a year. So you're not going to get inundated, but if you do want to sign up for it, then you get that free to read if you'd like to read that. And it has 2 of the characters from the book that are brother and sister when they're young. It's their adventure in 1910 when they're children. And in the book, they're in their 70s.
And it's also an audiobook.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
both.
it's an audiobook. We have, these are okay, here, if you want to read other pieces that I have, these are other writings. This is based on my Armenian heritage and the story of my grandfather. So that's all available. And of course, she designed my beautiful website. So did Sebastian. Yes, he did too. Okay. And I think it's question and answer. Yeah, it's question and answer anyway. Oh, she's a cute slide. Okay. Oh, we have a drawing. Everybody, okay, you want to talk about the drawing?
Yes, hello. It's very simple. Basically, you subscribe to her newsletter, and by doing so, you get entered in this drawing, and you can win one of these. So you can win bicycle cards, the ebook, the audiobook, or a handmade bookmark.
That's the 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 bird that we had made at the shipment's bookmark.
Yeah, and you can, on the drawing papers, you can check if you have a preference.
And since my whole family has everything, the odds of you getting something
Very high. Pretty much guaranteed.
And yes, and thank you for joining for thanks to this little library, and for Seth, to my daughter Ambria. And then we had to put this little dog because there's a dog in the book that wears a little bandana, and he's one of my favorite characters. So yeah, any questions or comments for us? Yeah, Brenda.
So, Avila Beach, why did you really want to set it there? If you spent a lot of time in San, what was it about? Just you had a special time there, or anything there?
Well, when we lived in we lived in San Luis starting in 1970, and during the school year, yes, I was in San Luis, but on weekends and in the summer, I was living in Avila. I think most of us were. That's where I was headed. And I think, it was, you're a teen, you're not at home, you're far away from your parents, it's a new place to live, and so, But then I did actually live in some apartments there with my aunt in, I think it was 75 or 76. So it was pretty close to that time period. And I love Avila, and I really, at that time it was such a different, it was so funky. It was this funky, quirky, quaint place. It had so much character. And I was sort of romantic and I loved literature, I loved novels, and so it was sort of like, anything is possible here. In San Luis, not a lot is possible except school and work. So yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah, I love Avila. And I think it becomes a character in the book, maybe so much so that it almost takes on a life, I think, of its own. I just really, really love it. Anything else? Yeah, good question.
When does your next book come out?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And I should say, that's a good question. 2 things I forgot to mention. The Eden is a transplant from Texas. That's why you probably heard of Southern. She's a transplant like I was, only I was just from Southern California. She's actually from Southern Texas when she comes into the book. So there's that. So she's bringing with her a lot of her culture at the time and her expressions and her way of seeing the world. She's never lived on the beach, and that's why Paulus is important to her as a big brother, showing her the ropes, teaching her how to fish. She's very upset with her family, so she's trying to cobble together a family of her own from the fishermen and from the local people. So she sneaks out and plays poker with them, and they take her under their wing. So she's trying to figure this all out because her brother has come home from the institution on her mother's insistence, and the father has left because he said, if he comes, I go, and he goes. So now she's straddled. She feels like, oh my gosh, straddled with this brother. All I do is take care of him. I need a life. I want a life. So I forgot to mention sort of the Southern Gothic feel and flavor to it. And then the end, there's some loose ends. And when I wrote the book, I meant it to be standalone. I wasn't really thinking of a series. But a lot of people who've read the book have said, well, what happened to so-and-so? And what's going to happen to, is there romance? There's sort of a romantic, a little bit of a light, what's happening in this friendship? And what's going to happen with the father? Is he going to figure it out? And so there's the potential to write a sequel. I'm just not sure that I want to answer those questions, because maybe I want you to answer those questions, right? You can figure it out what you would like to have happen.
Well, if it took 25 years to write this one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's never happening again. Yeah, I got to do something and start it and finish it. Yeah. Anything else, Eddie?
There are free bookmarks on
yeah.
this table. There is 𝒂𝒂𝒔𝒊𝒅𝒆 bubblegum. There is a New Times article you can check out. There was a book of old Avila photos
You probably
there.
have seen this book. Terry who wrote this was in my class in high school. So she had this book, and there were a lot of cool information that I used from this book, and also for the 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉, the 1910 story. The book, by the way, on the book here, if you would like to buy the book, I'm just selling them for $10. If you're $10, you can have the book, and I can sign it for you if you like. There's also a little sheet with some corrections that were caught. So it's another edition that's been uploaded with the corrected corrections, but you can pick that up now so that you can have it with the book if you like.
It's crazy what you hear when you're listening to an audio. Because I'm an editor, so I normally edit reading the text, but listening to it, I heard different errors than I saw while reading it. So that's where some of the updates have come from.
Yeah. It's like, we didn't write that, and then we hear it, and we're like, oh no, and then we have to go back and fix it because we're hearing it now. Yeah.
Is the library going to carry it?
The library had one. It had not the corrected one. And then I think Seth was going to order some more.
I think my boss, Monique, has placed an order for
Okay.
additional copies.
So there should I help you some more? Yeah. And I know Barnes & Noble had a couple. Brenda said she got. Were there any others at Barnes & Noble?
I don't know.
Okay.
I got mine today.
Okay, but she first went to Coalesce and she said they didn't have it. But it's it's on Amazon. You can get it there. It's on Barnes & Noble online as well. I love reviews. And by the way, you can check out reviews on my website, but you can also go to Amazon, and I have in the editorial. There's editorial reviews, and then there's customer reviews, and then you can get a feel for if that's your thing to read. If you want to read it, it'll give you a lot more information about the kind of book it is. So yeah.
And you can enter the drawing over there too.
Yeah, enter the drawing, grab some bubble gum. You